Welcome back, team, to week 4 of our 6-week nutritional program that we are selling to clients, okay? Again, this is all about educating PTs, staying in scope of practice, and giving you a foothold to be able to sell nutrition to your clients within the PT space. So let's have a look. Week 4, team, carbohydrates, the most disruptive and helpful habits, and also the 4 quadrants of food. Now, this is a big week, team, mainly because people are really interested in carbohydrates because they're associated so much with weight loss and weight gain. So do expect a lot of questions. Let's do step 1, the check-in. Let's weigh our clients in. Let's do our tape measurement, same as we do every single week. Again, we're trying to get the clients to be aware of their progress, to keep them engaged with our program, as well as it helps us track to make sure they're improving or not improving with our program. Okay, we have to make sure that they're always trending towards what we're trying to do for them. We need to make sure we have our general chat with them. How did they go last week with proteins? This is your time to speak less. Let the client talk to you. Let the client tell you what went well for them. Let the client tell you what didn't go well for them. Nice and consistent. Don't monologue to them, only answer and help their questions, and ask open-ended questions like, tell me something that went really well last week. What didn't work for you last week? What did you find hard? What did you learn? Did you use your good, better, best? How did you use your good, better, best? Try to avoid questions that can be answered with a no or a yes, because that kills the conversation traditionally. Hopefully you're getting quite used to this habit of this check-in process. It may take anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes depending on how engaged your clients are. If you're in a big group setting, you can get people, either point people out, which I'm not usually a fan of, but encourage the group to throw out some things that went well and what didn't for them. Just like every week, I do really encourage that you're following along with us with the dossier or the document that I provided. It's in the links, so just follow them. It has everything you need, all the printouts, all of the scripts, all the stuff that you're going to use for this program. And if nothing else, if you just had those documents, you can still do this program. All of the props and all of the printouts are just added butter. You can just send these things to the client to print off themselves. You don't need anything other than this video and those documents. Let's have a look at carbohydrates. This is step 2, carbohydrates. Let's start with some facts that you can tell your client. Again, staying in scope of practice. Again, peak clients are super funky towards carbs because they're associated with fat, about putting on weight, okay? So people get really funky around this topic. However, they do a lot more than just that. They're incredibly important in your body. So I really need you to emphasize to the client that within your body, anything that requires energy is usually pulls from our carbohydrates, from our energy, from our glucose storage or our storage of energy within our body. So we have a thing called active transport, which is cells and enzymes and bodily functions that work using energy, and that requires energy from us. Anything that needs energy traditionally will need carbohydrates. The pulses that your body and brain send out to allow muscles to function and to tell stuff to work, that requires energy. Our power strokes, our muscle function requires energy, ATP, it needs these things. We don't have to deep dive too much into the chemical side of stuff, but every single process in our body that requires energy to do it will need us to have some form of carbohydrate or fat storage within us, either in our blood or in our storage systems, to work. So they're incredibly important. We cannot live without them. So some people are really deterred by carbohydrates and would like to eat none at all. But what they suggested is the Australian health standard, at least, is about 130 grams minimally a day is kind of what's to be ingested depending on body size. And again, that's a very general statement made by the Australian health committees. You can look into it if you want, but about 130 grams is what they recommend. Carbohydrates are quite simple. When people get concerned about weight loss, it's usually along the lines of, and in general, is we will store fat on our body based off how much we eat and how much we work. So if for some reason we are eating the same amount as we're working, we will not put on weight and we will not lose weight because we have an equal pull and tug or an equal balance on the scales. If we are training or doing a lot more than we are eating, we will lose weight. okay? If we are ingesting a lot more than we are moving, we will put on weight. Who would have thought? The real thing you need your clients to understand is that when anything is done in excess, the body freaks out. So if I train in excess and eat very little, it will trend them very quickly to sickness, injury, and your body to yo-yo and freak out. And it may even store fat because it's in freak out zone. If I eat super lots and not train very much, I'll store fat and my body again goes into freak out mode. Just like I've been preaching this whole program, and what I need you to tell your clients is your body really likes slow changes over long periods of time. So the word consistency is going to be brought up a lot, but we need to stay consistent. A little bit more exercise and just a little less food than we're ingesting will slowly trend our body down in weight until it plateaus, until it hits a level that it will not lose anymore based off what we're doing. And that's what we're doing. We want these long changes because it's kinder on the body. I can't eat a pizza and wake up fat, but nor do I eat a salad and wake up skinny. Our body's designed not to do that. Those slower trends allow us to build the habits that are going to support us long term. And it's also going to give our body the slow adjustments instead of really, really quick ones. So that way we don't injure it or freak it out along the process. So these are things we want to discuss. There are some other topics I'd like you to discuss with your clients inside the dossier. Something I want to discuss with you now. Again, proteins and carbs and fats and vegetables are very, very complicated. So we try to dumb it down as much as we can. With carbs, I want you to break it down into this. As far as this program is concerned, there are 3 types of carbohydrates I want you to talk about with your clients. Sugars, starches, and fibers. These are the 3 main ones. Fibers are things that we get from our vegetables and fruits that don't have a lot of energy in them, but are very full of roughage. They're really good for our digestive tract. They're really good for our immune health. They're really good for our gut health, okay? Starches are things like potatoes and pumpkins. So starch here is actually a descriptor of how it feels and looks. They are full of energy and also full of fibers, okay? Really good. They help us stay full and provide energy, where fibers help us stay full, but they don't necessarily provide us much energy. Sugars don't have much fibers in them. They're really good at giving us lots of energy, but they're not very good at keeping us full. So each of them serve different purposes in the body. If I'm a pro athlete and I'm doing sprints, quick replacements of sugars is good for me. But I'm doing such a high calorie output that I need this. If I'm a weight loss client, I might do starches because it's still providing me energy, but it's keeping me full. And fibers, if I needed to lose a lot of weight, I might use fibers in that they keep me very full, but they don't provide much to my energy outputs. So this is how our carbs are broken down in this context when we're discussing stuff for your clients' weekly checklists. So foods are going to fall into different categories, okay? So tons of different carbohydrates will fall into the 3 different categories we discussed, which is sugars, starches, and fibers. I want you, as a thing to do with your clients, is write that up on a whiteboard and get the clients to call out different vegetables and fruits that fall into these categories. Now, what I need you to understand is that some vegetables and some fruits are going to fall into more than one category. So most fruits will both be full of sugar rich or fructose rich and fiber rich. Some vegetables will be both starchy and fiberful, and some will be a combination of all 3, although not very common. But you're going to find that most fruits sit with sugars and with fibers, and most vegetables will sit with starches and fibers or just be fibers. So you might get the clients to rattle off their 5 favorite vegetables or 5 favorite fruits and see where they sit in the spectrum. What you're going to notice is not all foods sit in this space for carbohydrates, just our fruits and vegetables at the minute. We are in a moment going to look at stuff like pastas and rice and other carbohydrates that are relevant to your clients' nutritional goals, but these are the main things because these are the things that are most holistic, foods that I can look at and identify. And this is something we discuss with our clients. The more whole food related, usually the better it is for us. just like a chicken dino nugget doesn't look like a chicken or a dinosaur, we don't really know what's in it, versus a chicken breast is something that's quite obviously a chicken breast. So when you look at the spectrum of health, I would always consider what is probably going to fall into my good, better, best. And vegetables and fruits are usually on the top end of our good, better, best, where stuff like pastas and breads, there's a little bit more complicated, so it's always a little bit more challenging. But for now, write up sugars, starches, and fibers on a whiteboard or a bit of paper, and just ask your client to do the top 5 or quickly rattle off some vegetables and see if they can figure out where they fall in the sugars, starches, and fibers category. Just an exercise to kind of get their brain thinking about these 3 major things. After we've done that activity, we're going to give the clients what their carbohydrate intake for this week is. And it's the same as proteins. So the client's proteins are independent of the eating everything together meals. They're independent. They gained that freedom back to have whenever they want. Carbs are now the same. They can have their carbohydrates whenever they choose. Okay, carbohydrate ingestion in this program is not as relevant as proteins. You could deep dive into when they're preferred throughout the day, but it's too complicated for this level of program. So they can just have it as they choose to have it, okay? So we might say to the client, they might have to have 8 cups of carbs a day, and they might have to have 6 palms of proteins a day. So they can have those at any time throughout the day that they choose. However, their vegetables and their fats, they still need to have 2 servings per meal, and they must be ingested together. So they could, in theory, have some chicken breast with some rice or with an apple or whatever independently. But if they want to have their fats, they need to have it with their vegetables and vice versa. Again, we're starting to introduce more freedoms. It becomes less and less relevant as we go, but we're still just trying to get those clients to slowly introduce their different macronutrients and their understanding of stuff. That's why we're slowly giving them these freedoms back. Again, follow the documents, follow the steps, and follow the dossiers if there's any problems around understanding of that. But what you should do is give your clients the exact servings they need in cup form, and then you're going to give them the printout document. In the week 4 printouts, you should have that document that's stuff they should eat often, stuff they should have sometimes, and stuff they should try to avoid. It's that good, better, best principles around their carbohydrates. Very similar, if not exactly similar, to what the proteins were. Giving them context. We're starting to answer that question. So that if they had any confusion around what's good and what isn't, now we have the answers for them. Excellent, team. So we just mentioned that for our starches, fibers, and sugars, that's very fruit and vegetable specific. That's where we're going to aim to get most of our carbohydrates from. However, I understand that's not reasonable. There's so many carbohydrates in life that we have to have other systems. And what I'm going to get to do is on the whiteboard or on a bit of paper or in discussion with your client, you're going to draw up 4 quadrants. One quadrant is going to be calorie rich. One's going to say calorie poor, one's going to say nutritionally rich, and one's going to say nutritionally poor. Now, all foods are going to fall into some area of this spectrum. We're going to stick to carbohydrates, but anything they think about can fall into any of these or many of these quadrants. And in your weekly printouts, there's going to be this sheet for the client to take home. So when we think of stuff like candy bars are really, really calorie rich. So high in sugars means there's a lot of energy, there's a lot of go. It's going to give you a big boom, a big burst of energy, which is a really good thing if you're an athlete or you're trying to put on weight. We need lots of calories to do that. However, the candy bar, it's not particularly nutritionally rich, so it's nutritionally poor. There's nothing in it. You're not getting any nutritional benefits. There's very little micronutrients. There's very little stuff that's going to help you with your gut biome. It's basically just a big kick of energy. So that particular food sits in this spectrum and is probably really good for weight gain. If we're looking for energy and get a lot of calories in, that candy bar is going to fall into the nutritionally poor but calorie rich. And the higher the calories, the better it is to put on weight with. If I'm going to choose something like a fruit, let's say an apple is sweet, it's sugary. So it's in that category of sweetness, so it's sugary traditionally. And therefore it's calorie rich because sweet sugars is higher in calories. However, it has all the fiber benefits because it's closer to vegetables and fruits that are all very fibrous. They've got a lot of beautiful nutrients that are going into us as we digest them. It sits in this category, so it's probably going to help us with our calorie intake. So it's going to give us that burst of energy. It's got more calories in it, but it's also giving me that benefit of having a lot of nutritionally rich stuff. So for bodybuilders, since they have to have such a huge amount of calories, they're going to rely more on stuff like sweet fruits because they're going to get the nutrition that's really good for their gut biome and general health, but they need to have a huge amount of calories to help them put on the weight and hold the weight that helps them gain the muscle. When it comes to stuff like a potato is calorie rich as well, not so much as the fruit, and it's also nutritionally rich, so it sits in this space. When we think of celery is not particularly calorie rich. It's a vegetable. It's more there for your fibers to help you with your gut biome and help you with your digestive tract and things like this. But it's incredibly nutritionally rich. So if I was trying to lose weight, there's not a lot of calories in it. So it's not going to help me put on weight, which if I'm a weight loss client might be good because it's going to give me a lot of nutrients, but it's also not going to add much to my calorie intake. So we might use something like a vegetable to help us with our weight loss. So what we're going to do with our clients is we're going to ask them maybe their top 5 favorite foods, maybe their top 10 favorite foods, or if it's a big group, we might do one from everyone, and we're going to see where it sits on this spectrum. Remember, higher calories means more weight gain, lower calories means less weight gain. Nutritionally rich means it's really good for the body, and nutritionally poor means there's not really much in it. So like a biscuit is both calorie rich and nutritionally poor. There's not really anything in it that's helping towards my overall function other than it's giving me a ton of energy. So it's a really good little thought experiment to do that with your client. Just break down their top 10 favorite foods, and this will help the client understand the general carbohydrates and foods, where our starches, sugars, and fibers was more about our vegetables and our fruits. This is all of our foods, and particularly all our carbohydrates. So use this system. It might take you a little bit of time because it takes a little bit of time for the client to get their head around it, but very, very valuable to help them with this week's nutrition. Step 4 is the client's most disruptive habit and the most helpful habit. So on the checklist, it'll say, what's your most disruptive and most helpful habit? And we don't have to spend a lot of time here because there's going to be a lot of questions around carbohydrates that are going to be asked. And that's why we're going to these kind of ending stuff, we're going to smash through quite quickly. If it's a one-on-one session, they want to spend more time talking here, you can, but if not, on their bit of paper, you just need to get them to start thinking about what's the thing that's helping them the most and what's the thing that's hindering them the most. The common ones that you're going to hear, at least I've heard a lot, is stuff that helps them a lot is meal prep. So if they're prepping their meals often, that's helpful. And stuff that's hurting them is if they're not prepping their meals, or if they go to bed late, or if they forget their lunch, or they haven't packed their lunch. Those stuff makes it so they make poorer nutritional decisions. It's just bringing their attention to their nutrition. So this is stuff that they might not think about in the past, but we're just trying to make them more conscious of what they're doing. That's all this is for. So it's nice, quick, it's simple. On their document for this week, they're going to write down what is their most disruptive and what's their most helpful thing they're doing each week that's pushing them towards the goal of success in this program. Step 5, before they go, make sure you've weighed them in. Make sure you've done your tape measurement to make sure you're tracking stuff. Make sure they know their carbohydrate amount that they need to eat this week. It'll be in cups, team, cups in their hand. Remember, that's cooked servings. I can't put dry rice into my cup and then cook it because it'll be bigger than my serving size of my hand. Make sure they have the printout so they know and understand what's going to be the best options for them. Make sure they have that 4 quadrants so they can kind of start being a bit more conscious on their food decisions. If they have any questions about sugars, about starches, about fibers, you can try to break it down for them simply. Try to keep it short and try to keep it simple. That foods will cross over spaces, but mainly that's the things they're going to fall into, which we will deep dive more into next week with the vegetables. We'll give you the final bit of clarity with these things. Make sure your clients have paid you. At this point, you should not be chasing payments. There should be a smooth system or they should all be paid out. Okay, make sure they have their checklist. Make sure you've collected all the documents off your clients. So that way we can store it in case we need it for any reason. Step 6, please prepare for next week. Next week's content is all about vegetables and micronutrients and the different colors of vegetables. So you might want to prepare by buying yourself for all the different colors of vegetables so you can show the client. You don't have to, again, you only need this document and these videos to be able to sell this product. However, it never hurts to have something physical the client can hold. So please read up, make sure you're prepared, make sure you've answered any questions, make sure you're documenting the client's progression in your Excel spreadsheets or whatever so you can see that they're trending in whatever direction they're trying to go, up or down, and rewatch these videos and reread those documents to help you understand these problems. You're doing amazing. Well done. We're nearly done. As you can see, it's getting easier and easier as we go because the systems are in place to do so. Excellent work, team. I will see you next week for vegetables.